is down. So aggressiveness from the defense is what you're looking for.
Ring 5, Hurts taking a deep shot. He's got his man. Quez Watkins, big gainer.
Are we live, Owen?
We got the intro starting. We just got the little week 2 recap video going while I finish up setting up here. Send out the message to the boys. Get the chat popped up on my phone.
Touchdown! You might never see this season a better hard-earned run.
2nd and 7. Bridgewater fakes the handoff. He's going to take another chance. Off the seam. Sutton had a step. And Bridgewater with a masterful pass.
There's been pressure in his face, and they force him to do something.
Quick pass to the near side. That is complete to Demetric Felton. Felton still on his feet. Inside the 10 to the goal line. Touchdown, Cleveland.
Texting out the chat to the boys.
You see my Dallas Cowboys defense pickup this morning?
You picked up the Cowboys?
I did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna start them, but I have the Rams playing against the Bucks, so
Ooh.
yeah, just basically some insurance if I'm feeling like I shouldn't do it. But I honestly might just start the Rams. And this week I'm feeling like it's kind of a wash for me. I don't feel like I have a good chance of winning regardless, so.
That's the spirit.
Hey! I mean, it is possible because we're gonna have the Cowboys. I mean, we'll get into the matchup. I don't want to get into it just yet. But.
Don't spoil it. I can't believe the Raiders are 2-0.
I was just thinking today, I was listening to an episode of the Footballers, and they were talking about the Raiders, and I was like, I've actually not watched any Raiders football yet.
Dude, they look good. Their defense looks good.
They're saying it's a catch. They are indeed. He makes the grab on 3rd and 10 for 26.
4 guys to try and get him down in the backfield. 3rd down and 10. Airing it out. Carr. It is caught. Henry runs is gone. Touchdown Raiders. Sprinter speed. Just throw it up there if you're Derek Carr.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because sometimes if I fuck with the audio, like my whole PC.
Adjustment, and Chase will walk in.
I can't hear you now.
How about now? Can you hear me?
There you go.
Hello? Hello?
Okay. Sometimes you just go quiet. I don't know if you're trying to fix your mic or if you're just talking or what.
Oh, that's my phone. Okay. All right, now we're good. All right, and how about now? Oh, no. Hello? Zach, are you there? Speak to me. Zach, I can't hear you. Well, that's not good. Okay, now I can hear. Hello?
About to make it big. I could still get the Rogers.
To fit any budget.
That's awesome, man. You want to play drums?
Zach?
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
Make that first down and 10. And the play fake. Cousins. Fire.
Zach, can you hear me? Hello.
Hello.
All right, we're back.
Did you hear what I said?
Now I can.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a record-setting receiving back at LSU. Including playoffs, he's appeared in 17 games and only has 42 catches. He's seen 3 targets in Kansas City's first 2 games.
I was listening to the footballers. They said he was like the 31st running back out of 32 running backs with 15 or more carries.
I believe it.
All right, let's get this started.
All right.
I'm introducing the brand new drop button. It's the only button we got. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to the stream.
Welcome
It sounds
to the
good.
ESFFL podcast.
Ooh, we in here. We live, baby. We actually in here now. Look at me.
Oh, shit. Where are you, Owen?
Oh, me? I'm just happen to be in the Dallas Cowboys war room here at the headquarters in Irvine. So I am in location right now. So don't mind don't mind these guys over my shoulder. They're just my assistants helping me get this show up and running proper.
Weeper, where did you find that?
Google. Oh man, we got Josh Nichols in the chat. Thanks, Josh, for showing up. Glad you could make it, of all people.
What did Josh say, and why can't I hear? Or why can't I see it?
He says Aaron's.
Owen.
How does it feel to lose to a football player who doesn't even want to play football? Let's dive right into that right now.
Let's right into some questions. Questions from the chat.
Questions from the chat. I still am shook, absolutely shook, of what happened on Monday night. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, once I saw the little tap pass, I knew it was over for me. But 8 touchdowns combined for you 2 players is ridiculous.
I was sitting with Owen over at Barrel House, and the first little shovel pass comes in, and Owen calls it the cheapest play in football. He was so mad.
It was ridiculous, man. I did not think it would happen another 6 more times in that game. Oh, that was very saddening to watch.
Absolutely brutal for you, Owen. But sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles, right? I mean, not much you can do other than look into week 3 because you had a good lead. You had a lead that was probably safe. You know, realistically, it just did not work out for you.
No, it did not. But, you know, it taught me a valuable lesson, and that's to not doubt Aaron Rodgers. He is my kryptonite. I thought for sure I would have a chance with Tyreek Hill only putting up the 4 or 5 points. And it was my downfall. Once again, Aaron Rodgers is my nemesis. I was willing to lay down, my swords in that whole thing, but it just really burned the fire within me again, even brighter. So fuck Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. He is now also on the hit list. I can't believe
Owen,
it, man.
Just run us down that matchup. So you obviously had Tannehill versus Rodgers. Rodgers, it's 26 points, 255 and 4. Didn't have a ton of yards, but got a lot of easy touchdowns. Zeke had a good game. I'm sure you were feeling pretty decent about that. You had a good performance out of Najee. Then Aaron Jones comes in, throws up 40 points, more than your 2 guys combined. So overall, I mean, your team looks like they did decently. Maybe you have a little bit of questions there at wide receiver. But you have good running backs. So how are you feeling about your team through the first 2 weeks here?
You know what? I do love my running back core, especially, and we haven't gotten into some of these pickups, but I think I have like 6 running backs altogether now, and I feel like all of them are startable. I mean, it's hard to say that it's tough to say that Zeke Elliott is probably going to be my biggest producer at running back, but I feel like there's a consistent level of production out of all my guys, and I can rotate them if need be, based pretty much on matchup. And I think it's probably one of the highest floors for a team as far as running back goes.
You do have very good running backs, and I've been trying to trade you for like when did we have the draft? 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I've been trying to acquire some running backs for like 3 weeks. So I don't know. Maybe one of these days we work something out. But and one of the players I really like on your team, Hawkinson. I know he didn't do enough to get you a victory on Monday, but 8 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown, pretty damn good.
Yeah, Tyler Hawkinson, it was probably my biggest, what made me happiest in the draft overall. I think just picking him up, I think it was like the 6th or 7th round, just fell right into my lap, and that was one of the guys I was gunning for. I would have gladly picked him up another round.
His hair, oh my gosh.
Goldilocks, for sure. I mean, just...
He had short hair last season, right? Because he was on my team for a little bit, and I do not recall him looking like that.
No, this is the new and improved TJ Hawkinson. This is the year he is supposed to just explode. And I think what we saw the last 2 weeks is what we're going to see the rest of the year as far as what the Lions offense is going to look like. Probably be down almost every single matchup, having to come from behind. And the way you do that, especially if you're Jared Goff, is throwing like concise passes that you know are going to get you those possessions and keep the offense on the field. His snap percentages, I mean, he's like 85%, 93% this last week. 20 targets
he's on the
combined.
Field, and he has a huge market share of targets too. So.
Oh yeah. So I'm very happy with the tight end there, tight end acquisition.
I think I said this to you when we were at the at Barrel House, but I feel like Hawkinson is everything that Higbee could be if he were on a team with less receivers. I feel like that's what I'm drafting Higbee hoping, or when I drafted Higbee hoping that he would kind of carve out a role in the Rams offense. I know we have a lot more mouths to feed than the Lions do for sure, but even if he could get like a fraction of it and kind of a same sort of, this is where we're targeting him on the field, you know, he gets some long breakaways, mostly just like 10, 11-yard catches. Like you can live off that as a tight end.
Oh yeah, and I think, I mean, he's up there with like Kittle. I right now, Travis Kelce is once again in the stratosphere, like 20 points a game, but he's up there with Kittle now, I feel like. And well, I mean, it's 2 weeks of data here, but I think you could put him in that same group because George Kittle hasn't really been
done anything
right. And Hawkinson, I think he has every opportunity to be what Kittle could be, or is, especially with, I couldn't even tell you the second wide receiver out of Detroit, you know. So
I couldn't even tell you the first.
Aquarius, some Cephas Williams.
Aquarius Cephas Williams.
That's the guy.
Yeah,
no. Detroit is.
So yeah, Owen,
bad.
You took an L this week, though. Just to summarize your matchup here, took an L, 13 points to Josh. You're 1-1. Josh moves on to 2-0, so he's undefeated through the first couple weeks of the season. Who are you playing in week 3? Do you know?
I am playing Zach's fantasy team and the Paraplegics. It is looking real tough for Zach still, with just as many injuries as week 1, if not more.
Yeah.
But I'm actually favored in a matchup this week, so it's looking good.
Would you look at that?
Yeah. I'll take that.
So let's just go to the next matchup, Owen. I want to talk about me and Steve.
Oh yes, this was there's a lot of heartfelt losses this week. It was a big week in matchups. I know we're excited for this one.
If I'm being honest, though, I fully didn't. I did not think I was going to win. I play Steve every year, no matter how good or bad my team is. I find a way to lose to Steve. He has a good team this year, different than any other year that I've played him. Like his team is actually probably one. What the hell did Josh? Quintez Quintez Cephas. That's his name.
Quintez Cephas. I was pretty dang close.
Cephas.
Aquarius Cephas Williams.
Aquarius Cephas. But playing Steve, man, I just didn't think that I was going to have a good opportunity of winning this week. We all saw what Clyde did. Sinking my team on a week-to-week basis, not doing really good at all. Steve's team is pretty well-rounded, so, I mean, just not a good week for me. Not a good week for me at all, and, I mean, that's fine. I'm just moving on to week 3. I broke the trophy last week, so that's definitely why my team has taken such a drastic free fall, but trophy's back together, looking to rebound in week 3, and that's it, man. That's all I even want to say about it.
I like how
just water under the bridge.
Yeah, water under the bridge, like breaking the trophy. Just like, hey, let's just put it out there real quick in a long message in the report and just never talk about it again. Oh, gosh. But yeah.
That's exactly what I did. It's funny because no one said anything like, oh, you broke the trophy.
I was surprised. I didn't want to say it out there and just put it out there again, but I was like, is this going to just be like nothing ever happened?
But everybody, show you here. Trophy's back together. Alive and well.
Let's see. There you go.
You can see that it is a bit cracked, you know, not a real sort of Liberty Bell type of vibe, but turns out this is not metal.
No, now looks like ancient stone.
It is in fact plastic, and it broke pretty easily upon hitting the floor. But yeah, outside of that, I'm taking great care of it.
Yeah, it's disturbing to watch. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. As well as I got some highlights going on over here, which is also very disturbing to see.
Is it a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble?
No, it's just another Aaron Rodgers. There we go. Love to see it. Yep. That was all day Monday. Yep.
Nice easy touchdown. Walk in for Aaron Jones.
There you go. That one was for you, Josh. Thanks for tuning in. Now get out of here. Back to your matchup.
You want to do next, Don? You want to talk about Diego and Zach there?
Yeah. Just recapping. Shout out to Steve. Happy birthday. Glad you got the dub.
Oh yeah. Happy birthday, Steve.
What's the other matchup we got going on?
Zach and Diego. So just an absolute clobbering 80-point victory for Diego. Zach's team really hurting figuratively and literally through 2 weeks. Diego's team, the Do I Make You Henry Babies.
I love it.
You like how I called him the Henry Babies in the fucking write-up?
I love it. And see if I can't get
the Henry Babies.
This zoomed in here. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love it. I love this. The logo is perfect. Yeah, the Henry Babies.
Derrick Henry in perfect harmony with the team name. Diego changed his team name this week. Derrick Henry goes off for 182 and 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards combined. Russell Wilson, huge week. Antonio Gibson, decent. Jefferson, good week. Keenan Allen, a good week. Noah Fant, a good week. Just from top to bottom, Diego's team did really well. I think I said it after the draft. I feel like Diego's team is one that we need to watch as a potential best team in the league. I think he's very well-rounded. He has good stars where you need them, and got a big bounce-back victory, 1-1.
I got a quick question for you. Who do you think picks up the L first, Diego's fantasy team, or the next L, Diego's fantasy team, or the actual Denver Broncos?
The Broncos play this week.
That's a good question. I'll tell you right now because he has them. He's got let's see. Tim Patrick and the Denver Broncos will be playing the New York Jets and Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and then the Raiders in their next 4 games.
I think the Broncos will lose first. They'll start out 3-0, and then they'll lose next week to whoever you said.
Baltimore?
Yeah, they'll lose to Baltimore.
Wow.
But pretty good. I think Diego will have a nice little run here himself. So
I think we're just all
looking pretty good.
Yeah, looking really good. Like 181 point performance, and then as well as the 51 points out of Derrick Henry is, I think, a top 3 performance all time as far as we've been keeping track. Player performance in our league's history. So Another.
That is possible. I know we had Kamara last year at the like 63 or something.
Yeah, I had
But
Will.
we've had a number of players get into the 50s.
Yeah, I know I had Will Fuller like 2 or 3 years ago go for like 50, but 51.9 is I think up there, the top 3 or 4.
Pretty good, Diego. So I mean, everybody's kind of waiting for Diego to fuck it up, though. I noticed that.
Exactly.
That's a consistent vibe throughout the league is that Diego will eventually falter on his own.
We got to see what Diego's thoughts. We got to get him in one of these next streams and call him in or FaceTime him or whatever, and
let him defend himself a bit.
Get our first state of the franchise and see how we're feeling with this team here, the Henry babies.
The Henry babies. Let's do. Who do you want to do next? Jared and Tavo, or Christian and Hunter?
Let's go Jared and Tavo, because this was an upset for me. I did not see this one coming.
Talk to us about it.
All right, so in this one we had Jared taking on Tavo. Jared taking the dub here at 148 to 125, and another big time performance from Kyler Murray. You know, Jared loves his Kyler Murray.
Sorry to interrupt you real quick, Owen. Josh says Tyreek last year was in the 50s. Yes, he was. I remember that.
Oh, against me.
300-yard game or something against you?
Yes, yeah. It was. Against the Bucks of all defenses.
Why not?
Yeah, because why not? Oh, man, that was crazy.
Sorry, Owen. Jared and his love affair with Dalvin, yes?
Yes, Dalvin and Kyler was a combo last year for him. Or no, you had Kyler, or no, Jared did.
Jared did,
Yep. And then Miles Sanders, quiet day there. D-Hop at 13. Mike Evans with 22 with the 2 touchdowns. Logan Thomas, Melvin Gordon, Deontay Johnson. Jared's team is looking really, really good. And he even gave me a call this last, I want to say Tuesday, just saying thanks, because during the stream he was watching, saying, hey, you got to make the moves. You don't be afraid to trade. And he made his trade, and he got this nice stack with Kyler Murray, D-Hop, Logan Thomas, and Melvin Gordon, and it helped him acquire the dub here, while Tavo is starting to reel back a little bit after his hot start. And I think it's just the same issue that he's been dealing with since draft day, and that's his lack of running backs. It's not to say that he's getting the points from the running back position, because he's got Christian McCaffrey, who is an instant 20 points.
He's got 2 running backs in one player. He just doesn't have a third.
Exactly. I mean, James Conner, 3 points, 8 carries, 26 yards. And that's as good as it gets there. That's
the really tough thing about this season is running backs are thin, man. It's hard to even work out a trade where someone's getting running backs, because everybody has decent receivers, or maybe receivers that they're like, I could hang on to him, whatever, like he's okay. Nobody, there's like a handful of running backs that you can even target in a trade, because nobody, like if I try to trade Tavo and I say I want McCaffrey, he'll have nobody. So like he's just not going to be able to trade away a running back like that. Neither am I. I know Hunter's kind of the same way. Christian started out with a lot of running backs. I know his have kind of been okay, but he could still probably trade some of them. You've got a handful, but outside of that, like there's just not a lot out there.
Yeah, I think what was the biggest thing about the draft this last year was the mid to late rounds, and acquiring guys who would eventually step up to be those kind of guys. And that's where I kind of feel like I really hit the button, was picking up those mid to late guys, because I end up with Gaskin, Damian Harris, and just these guys who could be potential starters. And I'm hoping, I'm gonna have to end up making a move here soon, I feel, because I'm really just hoarding on to a lot of potential fantasy starters here. So
talk to me, Owen.
Well, maybe we'll make it happen. I know this last week I was talking to Tavo, since we're talking about his matchup, almost gave away Zeke for. I was actually really pushing for Zeke and Amari or Zeke and Tannehill for Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott. And I thought that was a decent trade, like looking at what his needs are and mine. No, you don't like it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, it didn't
happen. I just don't think that makes Tavo's team. I don't know. He doesn't need a quarterback. Like he's trying to trade away a quarterback. Acquiring Tannehill does nothing for him. So
true. I figured he might want another, backup, but when you got Mahomes, I guess it doesn't really matter.
So we got Christian and Hunter now. This one, I don't know if I want to call it an upset. I think this one was a little bit close in the projections. 143 to 141, it looks like. Christian pretty drastically underperformed.
Yeah, man.
And Hunter, Christian underperformed 20 points, and Tavo overperformed about 20 points. So a little 40-point gap there in the victory. Hunter's team looked pretty good this week, 164. Hunter's team, I think, is going to be like that this year. I think it was kind of like that last year. He had low points, but kept winning and kept winning. This year, I think Hunter will be one of those teams that either he has a lot of points or he has a little points. Because the way he drafts just with wide receivers, that's the nature of wide receivers. Like running backs, you get more consistent points. Wide receivers will be high or low. There's very, very few times you get a consistent in between every week sort of receiver.
Right.
So Hunter's team this week had a really good week. He was flexing Gronk, which worked out well for him. He also had a lot of good players on his bench like Pollard, Cooks, Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman. Just overall had a great entire team week. So Hunter got a good victory there, 1-1. Christian, though, kind of the surprise of the season, maybe starting out 0-2 with Lamar, but just not having Barkley full. Receivers have been okay. Metcalf, I don't know if Metcalf is a wide receiver one in terms of fantasy, just because you have a team that runs the ball extensively in Seattle, and then they also have Lockett. So I just don't know. I just don't know if that's going to pay out as much as he needed it to for the draft capital he spent on getting Metcalf.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know with the trade with Jared as well, I know he got Waller, which I'm sure he's happy to get, but it seems like it's changed the feng shui of his team a little bit for the worse instead of the better.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you
he had DeAndre Hopkins, and
right.
Honestly, having Hopkins to me is more valuable than having Waller. You could plug in any tight end and get 9 points on a week, which is what Waller just did. Given Waller's ceiling is a lot higher.
Right.
But you just can't expect a tight end to get you 15 to 20 on a week-to-week basis like you can with somebody like Hopkins.
And it's tough, too, because I'm sure he was expecting a lot more to James Robinson, and he's kind of looking a little iffy, like where his draft position is looking about where he's actually performing at instead of where he was last year. So there's just a lot of questions on to what are these guys actually going to look like rest of season, and it's tough for Swoosh especially because I think there's a lot, like Joe Mixon is another one, Saquon, just a lot of these questions that are guys are good, they're talented, the talent is there. It's just a matter of production and game script and matchup play. I mean, just all these question marks of why aren't my guys performing? But again, can't really panic just yet. I still think he's capable of dishing out a couple wins here early without having to make any type of moves.
With all that said, though, Owen, just looking at the roster, points aside, none of that matters, right? Doesn't this look like a very Christian-owned fantasy football team?
Oh, 1,000%.
You got Lamar, Saquon, Antonio Brown, Waller, James Robinson. I feel like these are all guys that Christian loves, and it's just funny to me looking at the roster. That's Christian's team for sure.
Oh yeah. This is tailor made for Swoosh. If I didn't know whose team this was, I would say, oh, this has to be Christian. This has to be. 1 point I do want to make.
Josh says that's the future of fantasy football. Only a few Belkai running backs left. Got to change with the times. You can't expect to draft an RB2 like Zeke and win fantasy football games.
I did see that, and I was just saying 1 point I wanted to make on Hunter's side is with Tony Pollard and the fact that he's on his bench right now. Now, if you're a Tony Pollard owner in your league, do you start to bring him up from the bench and put him into a flex? Or potentially, if you're a Zeke owner, what do you do with the uprising of Tony Pollard? Because, 23 points is something Zeke hasn't even been able to smell yet. So
yeah, but that was based on didn't Tony Pollard break off a long run for a touchdown? Wasn't that how he got a lot of those points?
13 carries for 109 and then 3 receptions for 30 with a touchdown.
Yeah, that's 13 for 109 is massive yards per carry. That's not what he's going to do. He obviously broke off a long run at some point. I think Tony Pollard is somebody you can flex. I picked him up actually in my second league today. Just picked him up off the waiver wire as somebody that's pretty much Zeke insurance. I don't expect that I'm going to play him because in that league, like it's pretty thin, the rosters, so you don't like start a bunch of guys like Tony Pollard.
Right.
But Tony Pollard is one of those guys that if you're looking at like keeping Madison on your team or somebody like that, like they're not as good as Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's actually a really good running back, and if Zeke goes down at all, then Tony Pollard's going to step in and if he was on our waiver wire, honestly, and say Zeke got injured, bro, I'd be dumping like $150 into him.
Wow.
I would cash out my fab, bro. I'm so desperate for running backs right now that if an injury like that comes up, I mean, obviously Tony's not on the waiver wire, but if he was, I'm all in.
Yeah, I think this is something I was saying last year, going to like one last thing into Josh's point. Like last year I was saying like what we're seeing, like maybe even 2 years ago, where I was saying like what Cleveland's doing is I think the future of the running game. Like what this 2-back system, not quite a community back, but like these 2 really good running backs, and just having like this yin and yang run style where you have somebody who's like this power back and then someone who's a little bit more fast, who can make these moves, and just have that quick break, that one move and go type of deal. I think you're gonna see that across the NFL more and more, because unless your name is Derrick Henry, you're not. There's no, like Josh is saying, there's no such thing as a bell cow anymore. Like it's just so hard to do. Like Najee's trying to do it, and it's tough, man. Very tough.
Agreed. So that is it for all of the games from last week, Owen. I did want to. I know we kind of skipped the news. We don't really do like the segments like we did last year in an even order, but I wanted to mention the fact that we had the vote yesterday for the 14-game season that passed in resounding fashion. We had 6 votes. Let me look if anybody else voted.
I just voted live.
Just voted live. Love it. What's the vote at now?
7-0.
7-0. So we had some people not vote, but I'm sure they would have been fine. Yeah, it was a good thing that I stumbled across that, because I think that would have been a disaster come week 14. So I'm glad that we got it out of the way now and we're able to kind of fix that. But we're going to be playing 14 weeks this season. Playoffs will start week 15, go to 16 and 17. So going to be extending our season with the way that the NFL did. So a little extra week of fantasy football, and that excites you a little bit.
Yeah, I think it helps out with a lot of guys who are like, especially myself after this tough loss to Josh, and especially the guys.
That's really why. That's why I added it, because I didn't like that you and I both lost. I didn't want to give us a bad opportunity at making playoffs. So we need that extra week to get another victory. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, we need some extra time in here. So it makes sense. I mean, it was an oversight on our part beginning of the year, but it was a great pickup on yours to see that was going to be the case. Because nobody wants to deal with bye weeks, like especially in the playoffs. That's the last thing you want to deal with.
And the teams that are on a week 14 bye, they're actually not super good, and realistically, it won't have a huge effect on the matchups. Like I don't think any of us are starting a lot of Colts, Eagles. Like you get Jonathan Taylor, but it also a lot can happen in between now and the end of the season. So those guys could be potentially really good options week 14 if there's some injuries. So we just wanted to keep basically everybody's team having a fair chance once those playoffs hit.
Oh yeah, so good pickup, Kamish. Good job.
Thanks, bro. So let's, Owen, real quickly, let's talk about this week. So we got a lot of teams going. We got 1-1 teams up and down the board. I think 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. We got 6 teams at 1-1. One of those matchups is between myself and Tavo. Both of us are 1-1. Early projections have it just about a 5-point spread. This one I think is going to be a good matchup. I'm actually not feeling great about my chances of winning this week just because I don't know how Clyde's going to do. Going to need to bounce back from a terrible performance, but I'm going to need him to get probably 10 to 15 to feel like I have a good chance. Unless something drastically crazy happens with Tavo's team.
Sorry, I had to mute myself there because my dogs are losing their freaking mind in the background. Hold Hold on. Let me.
Oh, you're fine. Actually, you can't even really hear him that much.
All right. Should be good. All right. So looking into your matchup here, it is going to be like one of the. How do I sound? A little bit better. There we go. Here we go. Hold on. There we go. All right. Oh my God. Bella. There we go. See behind the fourth wall here a little bit. All right.
Sometimes I forget that I'm on camera and over here yawning with my mouth open. It's disgusting.
It's all good. It makes for good content. All right.
Oh, I bet.
So I'm gonna say right here off the bat, I feel like this has lost vibes on your side over here. I feel like Tavo over here is looking here to make up a comeback here, especially with this Thursday night matchup is going to dictate how it all goes. I wouldn't be surprised if McCaffrey puts up 30 points just to get things going. You know, he hasn't had.
I actually talked to Christian McCaffrey earlier this morning. We were texting a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that today he was going to take it a little bit easy. Like he doesn't need to go off against the Texans. He was saying that he might just want to maybe score like one touchdown and then sit. So if he's down for that, I mean, I'm down for that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. If that's the case, then I'm glad. You know, it sounds like it'll be a nice little easy day at the park for him. The thing is, though, is I feel like he's been doing that these past 2 weeks already.
He's still getting like 20 or something.
Exactly. He's only gotten to the end zone once. 21 attempts, 24 attempts. Like that's a day at the park for him. You know, that's not a whole lot. 9 targets, 6 targets.
I really do not like that little latest news blurb I see up on the stream. Christian McCaffrey could have monster game Thursday night.
Yeah. So I think you might have been playing you for a fool here. He's probably a double agent for Tavo. I would try and see what Tavo's got on that because he's probably talking to him as well.
My saving grace here, though, Owen, is the fact that Tavo's team falls off like crazy once you get past Mahomes and McCaffrey. Like, I think I have a better – I mean, I don't even know if that's better. Clyde versus James Conner. I think it's a better running back, too. I think I have far better wide receivers. I think the tight end, Andrews has been okay this year. Hasn't really done much, honestly, though.
Yeah.
In terms of the flex, I think I have better flexes. And I think I'm going to be in a good spot this week to potentially get a lot out of my flexes and wide receivers to where this team might not be able to keep up. That's kind of my only hope here.
I agree. Definitely, your team has the better depth for sure. It just seems like the rest of his team does just enough to keep his team afloat, while the rest of his team goes absolutely off. And
well, he's got a 50-point built-in floor with Mahomes and McCaffrey every week. 50 points minimum.
Yeah.
Those two guys,
and
so it just gives him a good leg up on everybody, honestly.
Right, and having New England too to anchor everything down on defense, I think is like the three things he's got going for himself. Like injury-wise, I know Amari Cooper is dealing with some major, not major, but pretty hurt ribs.
He is questionable right now. Monday night game, though, I expect him to play. As a Cowboys fan, I'm sure you could testify that as well. It doesn't seem like he's going to be sitting down on Monday against the Eagles, right?
I say that Tavo at least start him. Depending on what his health is, I don't know, but I still say Tavo starts him nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be having the battle of Cowboys wide receivers there, but overall, Owen, pick one. Who do you think is going to win, Tavo or me?
I'm going to say Tavo, and for one reason, I think it's going to be the James Conner over the Clyde Edwards-Helaire matchup. I think that's what's going to do you in here. It's so hard to want to be a CEH fan because of how little production is coming out of him in such a great offense. And James Conner's over here playing second fiddle and not Kenyon Drake to who else is back there? James Conner and is it Kenyon Drake? Chase Edmonds. Gotcha. Against Jacksonville of all teams. Like I feel like this is going to be a very susceptible Jacksonville defense. It's going to allow James Conner to absolutely go off because I don't think Kyler Murray's going to need to throw it like he did 400 yards like he did last week, and establish the run game here a little bit. And I do expect a pretty good game out of him this week. So despite of all we're saying about his running backs, I think it gets done on the shoulders of McCaffrey, of course, but James Conner as well. And it'll be a 8-point victory for the Calabasas kids.
All right. Owen, bring us into your matchup here. We got you, the 5150s versus Zach's fantasy team. We talked about it a little bit. Year 1-1, Zach's coming into this 0-2. Early projections have it split by just about 5 points there in favor of yourself. So run us down the matchup. Talk to me.
Yep, so I'm in favor 57 to 43% at 144 to 139. Still got Tannehill in the starting position at quarterback going against Josh Allen and that Washington defense. At running backs, we got Zeke Elliott and Najee Harris going against Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift, who I do like a lot. Swift over Kamara, that I'm saying. Deebo Samuel and Robert Woods going up against Odell Beckham, who's supposedly going to play this week, and A.J. Brown as well. In the tight end position, we got George Kittle versus T.J. Hawkinson. That's going to be very interesting to see as well. In the flex, we have Damian Harris and Michael Gaskin, right? Myles Gaskin. All right, brain fart there. So Myles Gaskin, Damian Harris versus Devin Singletary and Sterling Shepard. And then a defense, Buffalo D versus Tampa Bucker versus Prater at kicker. What are your thoughts initially looking over this matchup, sir?
Well, I think it's kind of one that obviously you would put it in the favor of yourself, right? Look at the teams, the injuries on Zach's side are a lot. They are bountiful. But this is what's not worked out well for Zach so far, and that is Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara plays the Patriots this week. Look for him to be massively involved in the game plan, I believe. They're going to be doing a lot of dump-offs because the Patriots defense is really good against the outside receivers. They have a decent running defense, I believe, but it's nothing that's too crazy. I think they're going to kind of lean into Kamara a little bit because they put a lot of weight on Jameis's shoulders through the first 2 weeks, so we'll see. But he's got a really good quarterback. DeAndre Swift has been pretty good. He's starting Odell Beckham this week, playing his first game back. A.J. Brown. So I think Zach's team has the potential to put up a big week if things play out for him. It's just a big if, but I think it'll be a close one. Closer than we probably expect.
I agree in that aspect. I think he's going to give me a run for my money. I think it's just like at some of his high point positions, able to at least match, and then the depth as well. Still iffy.
It's going to come down to Kamara, though. If Kamara has a big week, I think you're in trouble. If he has another pedestrian week, then you should be fine.
Yeah, last week was very bad for Kamara. I want to say probably one of his worst weeks without an injury in his career. There's a couple question marks like Tannehill. I'm thinking about streaming somebody else. There's got to be some other options. But the fact that he has A.J. Brown in there, I think I kind of do like, but we'll see.
It's tough for you because if Tannehill throws a touchdown, A.J. Brown is likely to be on the receiving end of that.
Points-wise, it does more for him. Yeah.
It does more for him, so something to consider.
Something to consider for sure. And I like how we were talking about this tight end matchup comparison, Kittle with Hawkinson. I think that will kind of tell the tape for the year on how that's going to go, because if Kittle can't get it going against this susceptible Green Bay defense, I'm not sure if it's going to happen with Garoppolo.
And Zach spent a lot of draft capital on him, I think in the third round. So
sure did.
Really needs him to pan out better than he has been. Next matchup, though, Owen, we got Diego versus Josh. Again, it's a 5-point spread this week. Looks like all the matchups in this league are going to be extremely close. I'm just looking at it right now. They all are within 5 points. So
wow,
really good matchup this week. We got Diego versus Josh. 1-1 Diego. A really good team, though. Could potentially have been 2-0. Josh's team 2-0. One of those teams that, in my opinion, could be good or is potentially who knows if they are what they actually seem like, right? They're a good team, but 2-0, they kind of got a little bit lucky in this last week. And then he also got lucky by getting a victory in week 1, even though his 2 errands did terrible. Josh's team overall pretty good. He's a good fantasy manager year in and year out. Diego has been questioned in that aspect, but he's got a great paper team, right? So looking at the matchup, we got in the quarterback spot, we got Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers. I think that'll be very close. 4 really good running backs, 2 top-level wide receiver 1s, 2 great wide receiver 2s, decent tight ends, and in my opinion, very similar flexes. Both guys on each team, none of them are going to get 30, but they have a potential to be in the teens every week, so I think it's a good matchup. This is probably the matchup to watch this week, in my opinion, probably the most interesting in terms of what we're seeing out of each team so far and what we can see from them going forward. But I like the excitement level of this matchup.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like every week there is a matchup that's coming down to the wire. The very last minutes of the Monday night games. There's something to play for all the way up to the end. And I do see this one coming down. I think these are 2 juggernaut matchup or teams in this matchup that it's going to be incredible to watch as well. The quarterback position, I like. The running back position, I like. The wide receiver, I mean, it is neck and neck all the way up to that point. Then we get into the Noah Fant versus Tanyan, where I think Fant wins outright against the Jets here. I think he's going to have a huge game against the Jets, just based on turnover production from that defense. We thought, what was it, 4 picks for Wilson last week with the Jets? I expect 5 this week. So
hey, it's very possible. Anything is possible when you're on the Jets.
Yeah, as well, Josh has some issues with some injuries here with T. Higgins and Darrell Henderson. T. Higgins popped up on the injury report this week, and I think he's going to be limited in the matchup if he decides to start him, especially with the uprising of Jamar Chase. I think you're going to see limited production out of Higgins, even though they are playing against Pittsburgh D.
The same with Henderson. He got injured last week. He avoided a major rib injury, so they're expecting him to play this week, but I think it'll definitely be one of those things where Sony Michel is sprinkled in a lot. I think we're going to be using them both to a point where neither of them are going to be viable for fantasy this week. And potentially throughout the rest of the season, maybe Sony Michel plays pretty good and they both just eat into each other, which is the worst fantasy situation because you know that both of them on their own have a great season, but if we start using both and they kind of feed off of each other, I just don't see a path to where we're going to look at Darrell Henderson, especially this week, and get a good performance.
So with that in mind, looking at his bench here, I see Zach Moss, Will Fuller, Laviska Shenault, AJ Dillon. I wouldn't, but also
you
Mike Davis.
Maybe start Will Fuller. Right? You might start him.
I would if Tua is in the quarterback position, but since we got Jacoby Brissett, I continue to sit him. What I would do is try and throw Mike Davis against the Giants in there somewhere, whether it is in Henderson or Higgins. I give him the start there. And why not throw A.J. Dillon? Because it seems it could be any Packer for Josh. He could start, and they'll go for at least 2 touchdowns. So
start anybody on Green Bay, and Josh will be all right.
I was more upset after salt in the wounds that that Josh picked up A.J. Dillon after the fact too. As soon as I dropped him, that just hurts because I was 50-50 on dropping him.
Next matchup though, Owen, tell us a little bit. We got Jared and we got Christian. Jared 1-0, Christian 0-2. Projections have it under a point.
Wow.
Run this one down for me.
So in this one, I think it's gonna be this one's gonna tell who was the ultimate beneficiary after this trade that they dealt about a week and a half ago. Looking at the quarterback position, we've got Kyler Murray and a questionable Lamar Jackson, who's apparently dealing with some sort of stomach issue. Yet again, I know that last year he was dealing with some sort of stomach.
I heard he hurt his hip.
And his
notification.
Yeah,
notification came through today that he hurt his hip doing the flip into the end zone.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was the flip, but damn, no.
He said that in a quote. So.
Wow, I was not expecting that because he did the flip. It looked like it was pretty clean, but pretty stupid injury if that's the case. I hate to hear it.
I mean, it's probably just like a bruise, if anything. But
I don't think it will limit him in any fashion since they are going against Detroit. Expect him to run and pass all over that offense or defense. Same thing could be said against Kyler Murray against Jacksonville, though. So great matchup in the quarterback position. At running back, we got Go ahead.
I don't have the matchup up on, but is Christian starting Tyson this week?
I think I did see him in the lineup. No, as of right now, he is on the bench.
For me, if I'm Christian, I want every Ravens runner that I could get in that matchup with Detroit.
He is starting him in his flex. So, yeah, he will be starting for sure.
I think that's a good play. I think him and Lamar both are going to eat this week on the run, on the ground game. So I think that's a good start.
Yeah, I would agree. And then so we got at running back, we have Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders going up against Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon. At wide receiver, D-Hop and Mike Evans versus DK Metcalf and Marquise Brown. Tight end, we got Logan Thomas and Darren Waller. In our flexes, we got Melvin Gordon and Deontay Johnson for Jared, and Tyson Williams and James Robinson at flex. Kicker Daniel Carlson for Swoosh has been one of the best in the league so far, going up against Suck Up for Tampa Bay. And a surprise start at defense for me personally is Carolina defense at Houston for Jared, going up against Pittsburgh's defense against Cincinnati. I think
to me that's not a surprise. I was actually looking at picking up Carolina this week. Forgot to adjust my fab though. Actually, that kind of sucks because I put in my waiver claims like on Monday, and then I'll go back in like Tuesday and revisit the amounts I'm spending on them to figure it out for Wednesday. Forgot to do that, so did not get the Panthers deep. They're playing the Texans tonight. I think it'll be a walloping.
Yeah, what's his name? Mills is going to be in at quarterback for the Texans in place of what's his name? God, I can't. Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, thank you. I had a little thought about picking up Carolina last week, but I think we're seeing something that's not there. I think Carolina's been able to be good. I just don't see it being them being a legitimate defense. I think the matchup here is as good as it gets, but I guess we'll see. Definitely startable, but I hear a lot of hype around this defense. I just don't quite understand it.
Oh, you're probably right about that. So for Jared's team, I just kind of want to give my quick 2 cents on it. I think the way that Jared's team wins is that he has the better team, and if they perform on a good level for everybody, I think he'll have a good week. Christian's going to need some splash performances. I don't see Christian's team as one that is going to have like 15 for everybody, right? You're going to get some guys that have 30, some guys that are going to get like 6 points. So Christian's going to need some big performances, particularly out of Marquise Brown, maybe James Robinson. So I think those are the kind of keys to victory for both teams, but if I were a betting man, then I think I would probably lean towards Jared getting the victory this week.
So if you're Christian here and you have James Robinson starting in your flex at this point, and he puts up, I don't know, let's say 7 points, do you continue to just keep him in that auto start in the flex position, or do you look to go with looking at his bench, someone like a Devonta Smith or a Henry Ruggs, or even maybe like a Javonte Williams?
I think it would just kind of depend on a couple of factors. I like looking at snap counts when I decide on players. If James Robinson's snap counts, the usage, even if his efficiency is a little low, I think that gets better throughout the year as the offense gets better. But also it could be looked at, in terms of, do I need a lot of points? So if you think you need just like 10, maybe you leave Robinson in. But if you need like 20 to know that you're going to need to put up a big amount of points to beat somebody, then maybe you start somebody like Ruggs that's going to get a long touchdown,
Well, like you're saying, you need those. He's going to need those splash plays. Do you think any type of splash play comes out of James Robinson? I know the matchup's kind of nice against Arizona because it seems like, I
don't. I see him maybe getting like 60 total yards and a touchdown. I think that's a good bet on him this week.
Yeah, and I know it's a Monday night game against Dallas, but maybe you do start Devonta Smith or Javonte Williams against the Jets with Denver, with the way the game script is probably going to look. Maybe put those guys in place, but I think
options. But I get why he's starting Robinson. It's tough to pick any of those guys over him. So
I'd be willing to do like a do or die with James Robinson at this point. It's like, hey, it's either you get it going this week or you're fluttering around being benched or traded.
Last matchup, Owen, we got Steve, the Irvine Goats, 2-0, taking on Hunter, 1-1. A good little friendly rivalry here between Steve and Hunter. Early projections have it in favor of Steve just by 3 points. Steve's team has been very good all season. He's got good running backs, great quarterback, great wide receivers, good tight end, great flexes. So I think Steve's team is probably a favorite to win it all if we were going on the first 2 weeks. Which is shocking because Steve is never good. I don't know what it is with Steve's fantasy team, bro. But he's just never in the running, So I'm glad to see that he's had a good start. Hunter's team got a good quarterback in Stafford. I do not like his starting running backs. I'm not a big Elijah Mitchell guy. Kareem Hunt, to me, is more of a flex than a running back, too. He's got the good receivers, as he always does. But he's going to be leaning heavily on Kelsey, obviously, and probably getting another good week from Julio and Cortland Sutton. So if I were to bet right now, I would say Steve is probably going to get the victory. But similar to Christian's team, Hunter's going to need a splash performance or two from some of the guys that maybe don't always get one.
Yeah, and I would agree. Except, however, I think we finally bring Steve back down to earth, and I think he will be acquiring his first loss in this week against Hunter. I see a lot of matchups here for Steven that if they were going up against any other teams, pretty much would have a great week, except Tom Brady and Chris Godwin going against the Rams, who I would imagine would be going up against Brady having the pressure in his face with Aaron Donald, Godwin.
I think this will be a very tough week for the Buccaneers. They did beat us I think we beat the Bucs last year. Beat them in the regular season, I'm pretty sure.
I think so, too.
Something important to note in this matchup is that Antonio Brown is on the COVID list. So I don't think he's going to play this week.
Nope.
That really lightens the load in terms of Tampa Bay's offense because we're going to have Jalen Ramsey locking up whoever he plays against, and then we'll be able to kind of focus on the other guy rather than have Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans and Gronk and the 2 running backs. Like, all of that is a lot to handle. Without Antonio Brown, I think it becomes a little bit more manageable, especially seeing as Antonio Brown would probably be playing out of the slot a lot, just destroying our linebackers. So I think that puts us in a good spot. I don't know if this would be an upset because the Rams are a good team too this year, but potentially an upset I watch for the Rams versus Bucs.
Yeah, and going to the wide receiver, the Cooper Kupp for Steven, I think he is also limited in the same understanding like we're talking about here, but in reverse. I still think the pressure is going to be put on Cooper Kupp since he's doing so much damage over these past 2 weeks, which would help me out a lot for Robert Woods. But Cooper Kupp
could be a good Robert Woods week, honestly.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I've been kind of waiting on it, but I would love to see that. I think in this matchup, Cooper Kupp is limited, Godwin is limited, Brady is limited, and as well, I see who was it? Oh my gosh, Jonathan Taylor with what's his name? Carson Wentz being out of the picture for who knows how long. Both his ankles being
my man sprained both his ankles on one play.
Poor guy. Oh man, it's tough, but I think it's just a very limited outlook for Steven here, which I think we will see in his overall point totals, given the advantage for Hunter here, whose matchups in the same aspect I think are pretty good. I think you're going to see a lot more Kareem Hunt in this Chicago matchup than we're used to seeing. Devontae Adams, I expect him to go off in San Francisco. Travis Kelce against the Chargers. Cortland Sutton against the Jets. Like, these are Julio Jones against Indy. I think these are great matchups. I think that just tilts the scale in Hunter's favor way more than what Steve could potentially overcome.
So you're gonna take Hunter in this one, you think?
I think so. Yeah, even with Steve's Baltimore defense against Detroit, I just don't see it happening for Steve this week. I think he takes his first L, and we start see Steve looking back to his usual self and start leveling out a little bit.
Interesting. But hey, Owen, it is going to be a very exciting week of fantasy football. I'm looking forward to seeing how all these very close projected matchups play out. It's going to be really telling to kind of see what is the story of each of these teams this year, because right now it's anybody's game still, you know?
Absolutely, and with this other week added on to the regular season, it's still anybody's game. You know, if you start out 0-2, 0-3, there's a lot more time now to really pick up your game. And you know, talking about like Zach's fantasy team right now, like he's still dealing with another 5 injuries. Even if Odell Beckham is healthy this week, you could still like make moves, do what you got to do in order to get into a position to make a playoff run. Nothing's set in stone, especially starting out here. You could start off 0-5 and make a completely drastic run into the playoffs. Anything is possible. Last 2 years have shown exactly that. So just keep your head or keep your eyes on the prize and head in the game, because it could happen for anybody. And a lot of these teams, you know, 1 or 2 injuries, and they could put, looking at Tavo especially, you know, 1 or 2 injuries, and he's, I mean, pretty much just out of the game for sure. So anybody's in it still, 100%. I know Christian especially is like, you know, it's looking rough for him right now, but one big win could change the narrative big time.
Sure. And I was going to say closing thoughts, but I think that summarizes it perfectly. It's still anybody's game. We got a long season ahead, so you just got to keep grinding them out, man. Just keep grinding these weeks out. Do your best to get some dubs, and eventually you might sneak in 1 or 2. So,
yes, sir.
Owen, I think that's it for what we need to talk about this week. Good luck, everybody. I know there's a Thursday night game tonight, so everybody except McCaffrey, have a great week. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. Sounds good, man. Another good podcast. Again, if you guys want, you can enter the chat, ask your questions, do what you want to do, but that's going to wrap it up here.
And I give you one of these.
Peace. That'll do it.
Welcome to the ESFFL podcast.
It's the only drop I got right now. There will be more.
Oh, are you playing one?
Yeah.